Hey YouTube, this is Jeff with Rebuilding Ourselves, and tonight I want to talk a little bit about the perception of self-worth. Um, I used to think for a long time that I failed. I lost my house, I lost my job, um, I lost my daughter, I lost a lot of things, and I thought it was because, hey, I'm a failure. And I just decided that it would be easier not to try anything else because I might fail at anything I try. I decided it wasn't worth going out and looking for a job because I might be rejected. Um, I didn't want to date anyone because I felt that nobody would want me for the person that I am, and I allowed myself to become stagnant. Being stagnant kind of goes hand in hand with a severe level of depression and high levels of stress. You tend to avoid those things that make you stressful, and if you're depressed, you just kind of just live in this stagnant environment. You're not out trying to improve things. You're just kind of saying, well, I'm here and this is how it's going to be. And what's frightening is that so many people just accept that. And I'm here to tell you that if you have a feeling that you have failed or that you're worthless, you need to go out and do something that you know you can succeed at. Do something where you know your actions will be appreciated. Your employer might not act like he appreciates you at all. You know what? Go work and volunteer at a soup kitchen. Put food in the hands of someone who's hungry, and they will look at you with the eyes of appreciation. You will understand what it feels like to be important because you're helping someone else. That's the whole give and take of human nature. Become a volunteer if you want to become a big brother or a big sister, Boy Scout or Girl Scout leader. If you want to become a mentor, a tutor. If you just want to talk to someone who's having a hard time in life, you might be the friendly ear that changes their perspective, and you just might be the person they need to get back on track. And if helping someone out of a situation like that isn't just an overwhelmingly joyous feeling, I don't know what is. I mean, you can help people unintentionally without even knowing it, just by simply listening to their story. My grandfather once told me that it doesn't matter how much money you have, how well off you are, how happy or sad or, you know, it doesn't matter where you are in life. You are never in a position where you cannot help someone else. You always have the ability to help someone. And that's a very important thing to remember because we get to the point of feeling worthless, and we're not. We can help people at will. And that's something that we need to remember. I want to tell you a little story about something that happened in my life that kind of blindsided me and just took me completely off guard. I was in a group, and there were people who were suffering from depression, from chemical dependencies, all different sorts of things. It was just, a nice big group of people where we get together and we try to help each other solve one another's problems. And, it was a pretty good thing. And there was a woman, and I will call her Bonnie, and she said, I know why I'm here. I know why I became an alcoholic and a drug addict. And she told us this story of her son, who was about 17 years old and a very brilliant child, a good athlete. In fact, he played baseball so well he had colleges looking at him to give him scholarships to play sports for their schools. And one day her son went to her and said, Mom, could you please give me a ride to a friend's house? He's having a get-together, it's across town, and, I just want to kind of get there. And she was really busy and told him, you know what, it's a beautiful day, why don't you just take your bike and I'll pick you up if it gets too late. And he said, okay. Got on his bike and he left. About an hour later, she gets a phone call from the police department that her son was hit by a car and he was in critical condition in a hospital. The injuries he sustained that day ended his dreams of playing baseball professionally. And she blamed herself. She thought that she failed her son, that she single-handedly destroyed his life. And that would lead her to this path of drinking, and eventually it became to the point it was severe enough to include heroin. And she fought for years trying to overcome that addiction. And I'm listening to this story, and she went on to say that, her son made her cry one day when he wrote her a letter saying how thankful he was to have her in his life. And I'm like, wow, that's just really powerful. And there were people in the group that were tearing up when they heard her describe this letter. And she kept on saying, I can't believe I failed him. Now, after this is all over, you're allowed to kind of put your 2 cents in and your thoughts, and kind of give your feelings to the person telling the story about, maybe if you look at it this way or that way, it may seem a little better than it, you're looking at it. And the thing that struck me, and I just blurted out, I said, you need to reread that letter. And she says, what do you mean? I'm like, well, there are people in this world who would give anything to have a child that could write like that and express those emotions. There are people who wake up every morning and their teenage children look at their parents and say, I hate you. You don't understand me. You don't get me. And they have no relationship whatsoever. There are people out there who don't know who their children are. And there are children out there who have absolutely no interest in who their parents are. They just want to get the heck out of the house and do their own thing. I said, you need to reread that letter. You need to cry again, and you need to understand that is the child you raised. That is something you did right. Because there are a lot of people who would give anything to have a child like that. And she thought about it for a second, and she stood up and she walked over to me and she just threw her arms around me and gave me this great big hug. And the next morning she was on the phone talking to her son. And her son picked her up, they went out to lunch, and they moved in together. And it was just something I randomly said that changed the way she looked at herself and her situation. Now, granted that there were people that were involved, therapists and doctors and the drug treatment counselors and things of that nature, but I felt like I had done something so wonderful, and it gave me this feeling of, wow, I'm able to change someone's life like that, and it pulled me out of the funk I was in for a while. And this is one of the things I've said before. We have the power to heal each other and ourselves, and the more positive energy we can bring into our lives, the happier we will be and the faster we can get out of that period of stagnation. And if helping other people feel better can elevate us to feeling better, why not do it? Why not volunteer? Why not give your time? There's a lot of different options out there for people who truly want to heal and heal others. We have the power to do that. We are not failures. We have lived our lives the best that we can, and sometimes we can't hold onto all of those things that were important to us, and sometimes we have to let those things go, those jobs, those houses, and in some cases, yes, our families. But we are not solely to blame. Most of the time there are these circumstances that are simply out of our control, and we can't take those twists of fate as personal failure. Because if we do, our fate from then on will be to live as a failure, and that is our own self-doing. And that is something that we as a society cannot allow to happen anymore. We need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and get back in the game. Because we have the power and the ability to determine how this game is played and how it takes shapes, and we can win. And that's the thought I want to leave you with tonight. Well, I hope you guys all had a great weekend and a good holiday, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care and go out, have some fun, volunteer, and start remembering life is what you make of it, not what's handed to you. I'll see you around.